is this the erosion of the West? And is it being done perhaps through ideological subversion, as Yuri Bezmenov speaks about in his work?
Oh man, it's a scary thought because the following reason. When a kid comes from money, he doesn't understand. If the father didn't raise him right, he doesn't understand how hard it is to make money. I had a guy I interviewed with. He was a psychologist and a planner for families who were billionaires. One of the families was the Templeton family. The family's worth $6 billion. And 16 of the grandkids, I think out of the 16, 15 of them became drug addicts and ruined their lives. And I think one of them that was left, he was working with. And I said, how can you save those kids? He says, it's too late. He says, Pat, the way to save those kids is very, very early. I said, what do you mean? He said, the biggest challenge with these kids is they got everything they wanted. They got the car, they got the house, they got the toys, they partied, they were around other rich people, they hooked up with other rich people's daughters, and they went over this, and everything came easy to them, right? And then later on, you're trying to teach them character, and you realize they never learned it. There's a book I read many years ago called Ultimate Gift, written by a guy named Jim Stovall. It's a story about a guy named Ray Stevens, and he's a guy that goes and works on an oil field. Eventually, the owner of that field dies. He strikes oil. He becomes a billionaire. And then when he becomes a billionaire, he shoots a video that will only be played when he dies. So one day he dies, and his attorney, that was his best friend for 40 years, he invites him over to the house, and he says, Red Stevens, not Roy, Red Stevens wants to talk to you. And he puts in the VHS tape. And Red says, if you're here right now, he's going like this. If you're here right now, it's because I'm dead. Okay. And you're wondering what I'm going to do with the $2.2 billion and who it's going to go to. So let me break it to you. He says, unfortunately, I've spoiled all of you. His wife is there. His daughter's there. Everybody's there. So he says, to my son, I'm going to give you all my properties with one exception. The janitor has more say on the properties than you, and you can never sell the properties, but you own them. I'm going to give my investment portfolio to my daughter, but guess what? The investment banker says what you do with the money, not you. I'm going to give my company to him. So he goes through all this stuff and he gives away. And at the end, his nephew is left. And he says, for you, I have the ultimate gift. And the ultimate gift, I don't have a car. I don't have a house. I don't have a company to give you. The ultimate gift starts on Monday. Tuesday, when you come here, I have 12 videos for you to watch. Each week, you're going to get a challenge on Tuesday. If you take it, by the 12th month, I'm going to give you the ultimate gift. He says, the reason why before you walk out, because you're upset that I don't have any money to give you, is because you're the only one that I didn't overspoil, right? What a ridiculous story. Anyways, the nephew is struggling with it. I don't know if I'm going to do it or not. He comes, I'm not going to spoil the whole story for you. But the point is, America is Red Stevens, and America has spoiled everybody. Yes, let's give unemployment for this long. Yes, let's give. Hey, FDR came out with Social Security. He only came out with Social Security for a few thousand people. He didn't come out with Social Security for everybody. And when he came out with Social Security, the average life expectancy in America was like mid-60s, and he started Social Security at 62. Which means you only got Social Security for 3 years. That means it's as if today the life expectancy in America is 80. If FDR was alive today, Social Security would have started at 77. But no, today it's like, hey, more because we have money. More because we have money. More because America's so wealthy. Let's just keep throwing free money out. Another stimulus, 1.9 trillion, another 900 billion, another 1.9 trillion, to the point where in the last 12 months, America, in the last 12 months, has printed 40% of all the currency America's ever had. Let me say that one more time. 40% of all the currency America's ever had was printed in the last 12 months, which guess who it favors? Those of you that believe in Bitcoin, that's a perfect argument for you. Also gold, but it's a perfect argument for you. This is why the dollar is getting a black eye right now, the more we print. So for me, I am very much concerned when I see an AOC and you go out there, an AOC, great marketer, great at telling her stories. And just a year ago, this girl had a couple million followers on Twitter. And today she has 12.6 million followers on Twitter. And she's young. She's a representative of Bronx and Queens. And she has so much say. What does this mean? We didn't have this kind of momentum with socialism 40 years ago. Communism and socialism, the ideas have been around for a long time, since Karl Marx, when he wrote the book. And, you know, Marxism, communism, socialism, Those ideas have been around for a while. But today, due to social media, people are looking at somebody and saying, wow, 12.6 million followers. She must really know what she's talking about. Maybe the socialism thing's really not bad. So then that leads me to my concern of, okay, if you live in California, you're not happy where you're at, you go to Texas. If you live in Detroit, they mistreat you, you go to Texas. If you're in New York, they mistreat you, you go to Florida. If you're in Illinois, they mistreat you, you go to Tennessee. So, California, you can go to Nevada because there's no state taxes. The point is, if I don't like a state, I can go to a different place. I have the options. But what if it gets to a point that eventually the federal government that mistreats you? Where do you go to next?
That's right.
Do you go to Costa Rica? Do you go to Dubai? Do you go to Singapore? Do you go to New Zealand? Where do you go? Do you go to Canada? Where do you go? Where do you go? So, I would be more comfortable if I knew that, like if today, I always say this, if somebody were to give me 10 million people and a good amount of land, a country, we would recruit the most incredible minds and make it very difficult to get into that country, because you would only be able to get into that country that you bring value to the table. And we don't care if people don't like it, but within 2 decades, we would be the place everybody would want to live in, because we would build it right off the bat with certain values and principles to protect. Unfortunately, today, that option number 2 is not very obvious. There are option number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but it's not as obvious. So America has the ability to bully its own citizens, because what are you going to do? I dare you to leave America. Where are you going to go? And they're right today. So if a handful of countries took advantage of that, it's like working at Google. Google mistreats you, go to Facebook. But imagine if there's only one Google. Where are you going to go if Google mistreats you? You don't have a choice. They're paying you pretty well. You ain't going to go anywhere else. So America's bullying right now. And I don't know how long it's going to last. I'm always pro-creator, pro-builder. A builder's always going to be wanted in a country. A creator's always going to be wanted in a country. They're never, ever single. Everybody always wants to be with a builder and a creator. But one country or two need to really level up their game today, because there's a lot of talent that could potentially go to them.